shouted a sarcastic greeting. Despite the cold, he wore no topcoat, only jeans and a white T-shirt, the first I ever saw with something printed across the front. I couldn't make out what it said, but I got the impression that was sarcastic also. In those innocent days, the only security was a single elderly stage doorkeeper. Dave and I between us easily talked our way past him, and a few minutes later found ourselves in the corridor outside the Beatles' totally unguarded dressing room. Some other media people had also got this far, but no one dared knock on the closed door, let alone barge in. As we loitered there indecisively, a rising crescendo of shrieks and stamping feet from the adjacent concert hall warned that potential interview time was running out. Then, suddenly, Paul came along the passage wearing a black polo neck, just like on the With the Beatles album cover, and unwrapping a stick of juicy fruit gum. As he opened the door, Dave said, "I know that face." And, as he paused with a grin, I managed to ask, "Can we come in and talk to you?" "Sure," he replied in the Liverpudlian voice that was so conspicuously higher and softer than the others. So, scarcely believing our luck, we followed him. It wasn't a dressing room, in fact, but a spacious lounge with green leather sofas and armchairs and a wall of French windows looking onto nothing. The Beatles had just finished a meal of steak and chips and trifle, and the plates were being cleared by a squad of brisk Geordie waitresses in black dresses and white aprons. There were no other females present, nor any visible trace of alcohol or drugs. The only entertainment provided was a TV set showing an episode of The Avengers, its only audience George's pale, unsmiling face. I started talking to Ringo, who was sitting in one of the green leather chairs. Then John perched on an arm and joined in. Both now also wore their stage uniform of black polo necks, and were astonishingly friendly and easy. I felt I had every bit as much right to be there as the melody maker big shot, who'd come up specially from London. John's patience seems especially remarkable now that I know what pressures he was under at the time. George never looked up from The Avengers, and Paul moved around restlessly, chewing juicy fruit and looking for one of the Moody Blues, who were also appearing that night. "Anyone seen the Moodies?" he kept asking. I recall staring at his jeans and wondering if they were the everyday kind they seemed, or custom-made with specially reinforced seams and rivets to prevent them being torn to shreds by frantic hands. On a nearby sofa lay the Hofner violin bass, whose long-necked Stradivarius silhouette had become his particular trademark. I'd once played guitar myself, in a no-hope band on the Isle of Wight, and to show my kinship with the Beatles, I asked him if the bass was heavy to wear on stage. "No, it's light," he said. "Here, try it." With that, he picked it up and tossed it over to me. I'm a hopeless catcher, but I somehow managed to grab its fretboard and shoulder strap together. For a few moments, I found myself fingering the same frets Paul McCartney did, and thumbing the same steel-wound strings. I asked whether violin-shaped basses were more expensive than regular ones. "Only 52 guineas, £54.60, he said. "I'm a skinflint, you see." The three were just as nice when I found a blank page in my notebook and requested an autograph for my young sister. "You're her favourite," I blurted, as Paul added his surprisingly grown-up signature. "I'll be all right then, won't I?" he murmured. "If I'm her favourite." It was the gentlest possible put-down. Like all their interviewers, I felt I got on better with them than anyone ever had before. "Is it okay if I stick around for a bit?" I asked Paul, then looked at John. "Sure," they both nodded. Just then, a hollow-cheeked man in a yellow shirt with leg-o'-mutton sleeves entered the room and noticed me. This was their roadie, Neil Aspinall, one of whose main functions on the road was saying to journalists what the lovely cuddly Fab Four couldn't possibly say themselves. More than likely, he'd received one of their secret signals that a visitor was becoming tiresome. "You," he said with a jerk of his thumb. "Out." "But they just told me I could stay," I protested. "Well, I'm telling you you've got to go," he snapped, then glanced down at a newspaper, forgetting my existence.